Welcome back with Left, Right and Centre. Now, the other big story that we are tracking this evening. What happens to children when couples can't stay together? One of them leaves their country of residence to go back home to another country, taking their child along. As you can imagine, this is a situation where there are clearly no winners. In such an arrangement, the children, of course, stand to lose the most, and then, of course, the couple as well. And this is where talk of the Hague Convention is now coming in. Now, this was the Hague Convention was concluded in 1980, and it aims to quickly return children moved by a parent from country, or what they call the habitual residence, or the country where the family has been staying, of the child to another country. This convention was based on the assumption that removal of a child from their place of residence, their habitual residence as they call it, is not in the child's interest and is likely to be detrimental to the child's well-being, which is why we're now looking at, should India sign this? Again, at the heart of the debate are the children who are taken from one country, brought to another, and their well-being. There are, of course, very strong views on both sides, those who believe that India should sign this and those who argue very strongly against this. Many of them are affected as well. Let me introduce my panel to you right away. We're just trying to connect with many of them, but I'll start with Malvika Kotia, senior advocate, joining us in the studio. Also, Lalita Kumaramangalam of the BJP, social activist and former chairperson of the National Commission for Women with us. I'm just going to get my panelists in, but Lalita Kumaramangalam, ma'am, let me start by asking you, is there any clarity that we can get on what the government's position is? What is India's position on this right now? Because we are still not clear which way we are leaning, which way it could go. Because all these years, of course, for the longest time, we've heard that we're not in favor of this. And then again in February this year, there was sort of a change in stand with let's open this up to discussion and consultation. So where are we on this right now?
Quite frankly, the government is stuck between a hard place and a rock. Most activists do not want the Hague Convention to be signed because we don't have laws in place that can protect, and they are mostly women from India, if we're talking with reference to India, protect the women who tend to run away from marriages that are violent or just bad in general. And of course, the government was initially thinking of signing the Hague Convention, but I think wiser counsel prevailed for some time. At the moment, there is a draft bill on the website of the Ministry of Women and Child Development, which is still inviting comments, but I don't think anything has been finalized. The Law Commission has, on the other hand, recommended that it should be signed, but with some changes made in it. Now, there are several countries in the world who've just recently signed it. Japan and Sri Lanka can be quoted in particular, where they don't give the power to the, to the Hague Convention per se, that is to courts outside of their country to decide whether the child should be returned to the country of domicile or whatever they call it. Japan is even more strict. But I think in India we need to still get into place laws that will protect both mothers and children. I agree that children need both parents. Right. But often Indian women, don't have access to the law, don't have money, don't have the education and the awareness required. There are a lot of problems, especially in states where there are problems with what we call NRI marriages.
Absolutely. We need something that protects, sort of is a win-win. But is that possible? I want to ask you, Malvika, now the primary caregiver we know is the mother. Usually they are behind some 68% of international abductions, really 68% of the abducting parents are mothers. 85% of them described, of course, as the primary caregivers, which is why their role is in focus. But now, the argument to be made is that the women are always seen as victim, which might not be the case. What happens when that's not the case? So is it so black and white, really?
No, it's not. And in fact, it is to retain the nuance that we don't want it to be a mechanical return. And it is for the courts to be able to retain and assess using their judicial training and judicial eye to be able to pick up the nuance and decide that there are certain instances when the children in fact have been wrongly removed for reasons that are not adequate and should be returned. And may I say, there are fathers also who have removed.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. But the position is, of course it is exhausting to say that women are victim all the time and so on and so forth. But the truth is, it is so.
You're saying majority of the time
Yes,
that they are.
yes, like they move, not because they're going to become the president of a bank in another country. They move because they're coming home, fleeing domestic violence.
Okay. You know, I'm also now just on that note. I just want to introduce you to Minder Kaur. She's joining us on Skype from the US. She is a mother who was left behind. She came to India. So just correct me on the details if I'm mistaken, but you came to India with your husband and your child. You left your child behind with your in-laws because your marriage was trouble, and there was perhaps an understanding that you would go back to the US with your husband, try and make it work. But that didn't happen, and when you came to collect your child again, you were told that you just had no rights and they did not hand you the child. I want to ask you that if India had signed the Hague Convention, how do you believe that your story would have turned out differently? You have now, thankfully, been reunited with your child.
Natasha, first of all, yes, you are absolutely right. I came to India to get my son back, and he was 2.5 years old. As per Indian law, I should have given his interim custody in a day or so. I filed the most urgent case of habeas corpus in the High Court, the highest court of the state. And I was given dates after dates after dates, and the cases were prolonged and prolonged. I could not get justice. I stayed in India for 5 months, and I did not get justice in Indian courts. I came back here and filed my case in US. In US, child custody cases are resolved within 6 to 12 months of filing the case. They do not prolong over years. There's no appeals people do. In India, people abuse the system so much that even a mother of a 2-year-old child was not able to get meaningful access to the child because India did not sign Hague Convention. There was no civil remedy to get my son back.
That's a good point. But I just want to interrupt you there, because that, of course, comes again down to that this is going to be, the Hague Convention says you've got to do it in a time-bound manner. You've got to move on with this. People need to get on with their lives. And again, the thing is that the wheels of justice in India just can sort of churn slowly. And the point that she's making...
That's not true. In fact, may I say that even at an international level, by the time processes of Hague Convention are reached a final process, it can go well beyond a year and even more. And the United States, most recently, the Supreme Court has ruled that there may well be instances when a habeas corpus petition, a Hague Convention petition is not filed in a particular state, in a US state, for reasons that we don't know where the child has been taken away. Now, that gives adequate time for that child to have developed roots. So the court has said, look, we are not here trying to... I know it may sound like rewarding behavior, which is a type of misconduct, but we are concerned about the child. And if the child has developed roots, then we are reluctant to we are reluctant to disturb them. Now, the 2.5, this is a most shocking case. I would like to know which state this lady is from and which High Court did
Ms. Malvika.
No,
this was Punjab and Haryana High Court.
Well, that's dreadful. That's dreadful. It shouldn't have happened.
Very, very sad.
That's dreadful. It shouldn't have happened. When it didn't happen, you should have come to the Supreme Court immediately to say that you've not got interim relief. But be that as it may I say, I'm kind of tired of constantly being told that it is our system which is less than perfect, but abroad it's all sort of perfect.
India failed,
and that does not happen. And I've seen it.
Absolutely. I will say that uprightly that India failed a mother. India failed a domestic violence victim. I was also a domestic violence victim, and there's enough protection measures available in the US to have protection and safeguards in place for women who say they flee from domestic violence, which is not at all correct. There is a Violence Against Women's Act in US, which was established in 1994. Why will the women not call police if they are having domestic violence in their home? Why will they flee to India?
Does this lady
it's
have
all
a job?
planned conspiracy.
This is significant. Can you please highlight this for the program? Can you please highlight this for the program?
I'm just going to go back to that.
Go to the police, especially Indian women, but that's a different story altogether.
No, this particular lady is an empowered lady with a job over there.
Okay, but these cases also happen. I think Simran is here to sort of prove that
that's fine. That's fine. Okay, but there are that many cases that do happen.
But they are in a minority. Most of the women in India,
Natasha, you have to understand that 32% statistically is not a small number.
Very often,
Natasha, 32% of women come to India, of men abduct the children. It's not a small number statistically. It's not majority, I understand, but it's not a small number. There have been so many cases where fathers have taken children to India.
We are talking about not allowing
when there are cases like this, when there are
don't know their
we
rights,
don't want to make
working
it.
women
The
have
only
taken children
reason
to
why we
India
are
and not
resisting
returned,
this is,
and they have
the only
obstructed
reason,
every
please.
access of the father, of the mother staying in US. They have control, they have alienated the children. The children suffer parental alienation, which is the highest
Parental alienation is not a clinical recognized term even in the US law.
Everybody's speaking at the same time.
Clearly.
Simran,
What
I just have
happens
one
to the
question.
hundreds of women in Punjab, Haryana, Gujarat, various states in this country who are just packed off by their husbands from
Which
America
does
and never
happen.
get to see their
Absolutely,
children
and that
again?
is-
Lalita
that
ma'am,
is-
I respect you a
So
lot. I think I
this
met
is
you
not a
last year in
one-sided
the
story.
consultation for
Now,
Hague
this
Convention.
Simran has to allow for other people to
Did
get
anybody
it.
in India help me? I was
She's
going from
got
pillar
her
to
case,
post,
it's fine.
from National
Now let's
Commission of
move
Women
on.
Okay, which
to
is-
State Commission
yeah.
of NRIs. Nobody helped me. Who helped me?
Which is
Indian
tragic.
US government and US law enforcement
Okay,
system.
and it is of course cases like this that again, Malvika, I'd like to not bring the focus back on just how are we going to deal with it, because there is no one size fits all. But before you do that, I'm also going across to Anupama. She is a mother joining us from Mumbai. Anupama, tell me your story.
So just for a minute, I want to say,
yeah.
Hague becomes one size fits all. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
While judicial control is retained, there is no one size fits all. And we are only pushing for that.
Okay.
Now we
Okay. Okay. But
Yes,
then
I agree with her
I'll come to that
absolutely,
in a bit.
100%.
Yeah, okay. Anupama, go ahead. I was trying to ask you, you're hearing the debate. There are just so many strong views on both sides. You're someone, of course, who has said that we should not sign the Hague Convention. How do you believe not signing it will help someone in your position?
I very strongly oppose India signing the Hague Convention, and I, just like Malvika, do not agree with Saminder Kaur's statements at all. I think most of us are familiar with her case, and I think if you go into the depths of her case, one will understand, what the loopholes there were. But in any event, that's not what I'm about to bring up. The Hague does not help women. It does not help children at all. In fact, it would be disastrous for India to sign Hague, because Hague it jeopardizes the very well-being and safety of the kids it professes to protect. Just like was pointed out earlier, Hague is a one-size-fits-all kind of a solution. In fact, it is no solution at all. It does not take into account safety and welfare of the women. It does not take into account safety and welfare of the children that it's claiming to protect. What it does, it only aims at restoring status quo.
Okay.
Now, a woman who's fled from a foreign country because she's fleeing domestic violence, because she is she's scared for the safety of herself and her child, she has every right in the world to return to her parents' home.
Right.
This is a dictum that's followed even in the animal kingdom, for God's sake.
I see what you're
when
saying.
When a male lion attacks its own cub, it wants to eat its own cub. The female lion runs to protect the cub and removes it from the custody
Let's get
of the
another
male.
voice in. Anupam, I'm sorry to
So
interrupt you,
just
but
like
I'm starting to
that,
run out of
an
time. I want to
Indian
get another
mother
voice in. Anupam, just
will
give me a minute.
return naturally
I'm also
to her
joined,
home country
like I said,
to
there
protect
are no
herself and
winners,
her
and
child.
it's not just women, the point that Malvika so made. Let's hear from a father. Let's hear from Kiran, now joining us via Skype. Kiran, you're someone who's now the other side. You've just heard a mother there, victim of domestic violence, talk very passionately about how she believes signing this is not in the interest of the children, not in the interest of the women. Of course, talking about women who are perhaps not financially independent, and therefore, these NRI marriages have been in focus. Why do you believe otherwise?
So, USA and other countries, they have a lot of laws already in place for domestic abuse victims. These people should be approaching the law enforcement, getting the abusers arrested instead of fleeing. They have a lot of privileges with respect to visa, financial assistance. Even Sushma Swaraj's website has so much information on so many resources available, so many government agencies helping them. And why are these people avoiding the law? I mean, when you go to some country, you are not supposed to abuse the laws of the country and then say that your fleeing is justified. This is totally irrelevant in countries like USA, where people, even last week, there was a case where...
Let's understand. Okay, let's understand. That's, of course, also an important point, is it, Malika, that if you have recourse available, is fleeing, I would imagine, also the last option. But when it's available, should they not take it?
Yeah, now we come to the next thing. Why do the fathers presume that this place where the woman must continue to be with the children through a bad marriage where she ceases to have support must be that place? That's also,
Why not that
she
place?
too
Why
has
not
a
that
right
place?
to decide to relocate.
Again,
she
this
has independent
No,
careers.
when you-
Where
Come
is the
back to who
presumption?
decides? Will this come back then
When you
again
have a
to
child.
who decides?
That
I mean,
is when
a
we
marriage
talk
is a
about,
tricky
yeah.
situation
When we
anyway.
have a child,
Yeah.
then it doesn't mean necessarily, you know, there used to be a 17th, 18th century law that domicile of a woman followed the father. We've given that up.
Okay.
We are in the
Let him get-
21st
okay,
century.
Can I say something here, please?
Yeah, okay.
You know, if you have a child, then the man should not indulge in violence so
Exactly.
bad that his wife is forced
Sure,
to even
sure.
think of
But
leaving him.
let's get the
So
one
let's
male
not
voice
talk
that we
about
have.
that aspect
Okay.
of things.
Let's
I
get the
agree
one
that
male
some
voice
men
that we
been
have on the
wrong.
program to respond.
But in the case of India,
Kiran,
most
go ahead.
women are the ones who are being wrong.
Yeah. Kiran,
And
go ahead.
how about all the fake?
Miss Malvika.
How about all the fake allegations that are going on in India? Why is DV 498 being so called that the Supreme Court says that it is being totally abused? The rate of conviction is 3%.
No, sorry,
and
that's a
how about
generalization.
Let him
Sir, you're
let him
misinformed.
let him
believe
finish.
it?
Initially,
Don't
one
read
judge
on the
made a
net and
ruling
jump to
against
conclusions.
498A. Now a double
we
judge
cannot-
bench has
Miss
ruled
Malvika.
against that ruling.
Okay.
First
So
of all,
please don't
abuse
miss-
Now
happens
let
in
him
a
finish
foreign
here. I'm
country.
totally out of time, but
Abuse happens.
Abuse happened in a foreign country. It has to be adjudicated there. How can the Indian courts get to understand what has been going on in the foreign country
Because
when they
very
cannot
often these
find the
women
evidence?
don't have access to any money.
How can they do it?
Unfortunately, there seems to
Look,
there
as
seems to
chairperson,
still be
please
so much
don't
to
say
say
that
and
you
understand
understand
all this, but I'm just so completely
How
out
can
of
the
time,
child who has been
unfortunately.
living in
But
US for
I'm sure
5
this is
years
not the last
suddenly
time
has
that we are
ordinary
looking
residence
at
in
this,
India?
and there are just such
One
strong
day
views. And you would
he-
see, Malvika,
people
just
fight cases
just
in-
heartbreaking cases all around us, which is why I would imagine this is going to be a tough decision. At least we're talking about it, trying to sort of make actively front burner to understand just what's at stake. At the heart of this, of course, are the children and how they tend to lose if these issues are not sorted out. Thank you all so much for your time. Like I said, we will revisit this in the days and weeks ahead. For the moment, it's a wrap on Left, Right and Centre. Thanks so much for watching. Good night.